Welcome back, everybody. It's Hutch from Hutch High Perf. I'm not even going to waste any time. We're back on the harness, so let's get going. This is the second half of the harness. Pretty much went together the same way the other one did. So it's just a lot of depinning and stripping wire and crimping and soldering and then putting them back in. So here's one thing when I get done is I'm going to pack all these crevices of the new wires with dielectric grease before I put its little shroud back on. So let's get in to all those little crevice areas. The point is just to get some more grease back in there, help with the waterproofing. Come on. I want to get in between all these wires. Give it a good squeeze right into that area. This will make this thing nice and maybe not waterproof, but definitely water resistant. So this is the same thing I did for the first half when I was done. There we go. I'll make one little shot right there. So I hold it right down onto the opening and just give it a good squeeze to kind of force some of that stuff right into where the wires are, where the connectors are. All right, so with that done, your cover, it's split on the back side. So we can gather all of these wires up. And then, yeah, it goes on like that. We'll just snap these in. All right. Then we'll move this, oh, there it is, down like so. Take off that little extra grease right there, make it look pretty. There is the second half, all done, all the wires run, everything is new. So now we can put this one back onto the other one, and then we'll get to routing it into the car and measuring and cutting and more crimping and soldering and splicing and heat shrink and all that good stuff. All right, so you can see the curve on that matches up to where the curve has to be here. So those two, just snap right in, just like that. So now we have a giant spaghetti jumble of wires, just like we did last time, except these are brand new. And I've still got to run all the conduit. But first, there are a couple of wires at the front. There is this wire that goes to the hood lamp that's up on the hood of the car. And then you've got a couple of wires that do not go into the harness. You've got a 12 gauge pink wire and white wire that go over to the distributor. Some wiper motor wires that don't follow with this, and the tan and white stripe wire that goes to your proportioning valve for the sensor down there. So I think we're going to have to go over to the car, and I got to figure out how I want to run this through the side of the inner fender well. But first things first, let's tackle that windshield wiper motor and get those connections squared away. Imagine, if you will, an automotive speed shop. There's a guy standing out in front of that place. Second guy's walking up. He's getting ready to go inside. First guy approaches him. "Excuse me, sir. Please, I could really use your help. If you have any spare money, change, anything, I'd really appreciate it. I don't have the money to feed my wife or kids. I can't pay the mortgage or the electric bill. Anything you could spare, I'd really appreciate it." Second guy looks at him. "You poor sad fella. You spent all of your money on high performance parts and now you can't feed your family or pay your bills." And the first guy says, "Oh no, I got car money." If you laughed at that, even if you chuckled just a little bit, I think it's time that you give me a subscribe and a like.
I think you should give it to me.
So putting this over in the car, I just looked at it. It's going to be a little bit more interesting than just throwing the harness up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ration out all these wires. I'm going to start taping them up at least a little bit so I can kind of make less of a spaghetti mess out of this and have it look more like harness. I might even put some of that conduit I bought on some of this just to kind of neaten it up a bit so it doesn't make it as difficult to handle. All right, so I need the pink, purple, gray, and green. That is, get over there. This stuff is for the windshield washer pump that goes to the motor. So I am going to kind of route this together into its own little separate run. These are the ones I'm messing with. So I'm going to start taping some of this stuff up. Stay. Got too much weight hanging over the side. There we go. So this is Tesa tape, T-E-S-A. It's better than like that regular old duct tape or electrical tape that you use. It's like a fabric to it, and the glue doesn't break down over time and turn into this gooey, nasty mess that you have to fight to try to clean up. All right, so that ought to be just enough of that. So then you've got this tan. Let's see, this little baby will hang off by itself. That's the hood light. It's a short lead. So then you've got this tan and white stripe. That goes down to that brake warning light down the proportioning valve. Let me get this, once I kind of get this thing parsed out. But right now everything is so jumbled together. I'm trying to keep everything straight. Let's get that under there. And then under here, get these out of the way. That out of the way. All right, so the pink and white, going to combine that, because these two, the pink and white, go to the distributor, and then you've got this tan and white that goes basically kind of in the same direction, but it heads down to the bottom underneath the car. So I'm going to put those in a run together because they will go into the same harness until the tan wire has to break off and head down the bottom of the car. So we'll we'll put those together on their own run. Yeah, that'll work. All right. All right. So those are going off on their own. Everything else gets, oh, what a mess. Everything else runs together in the harness. That's going to go behind the inner fender and then route to the front of the car. So we're going to put all this stuff together, tape it up in a couple of spots, put some conduit on it to kind of keep it under control. Then I think we'll be ready to go over and start messing with it on the car. Okay, let's get all these. Those are going there, those are going there. That is what's left. All right, so I'm going to tape these up per side, and then once they're per side, I'm going to tape them together. That side. Do the same thing with these. So this is the 1-inch conduit. This is just rough. Just putting this on to kind of, I don't know, just contain this. It's so unruly. Just to take it over to the car, it's going to be so much easier if this stuff is just loomed up, at least temporarily. And like I said, this stuff will, this isn't the final call, because I'm going to tape this up the whole way down to kind of make sure that this stuff is contained in different runs so it all works together. Okay, let's make sure that's all tucked in there nice. Okay, now that's better. Then you just got 2 runs out here. These go to distributor and to portioning valve, and then these go to the windshield wiper, motor, and pump. So, all right, now I think I can get over to the car and have a little bit more control over this. So it's just not flailing everywhere. I can hang the spaghetti at the bottom, just off the side of the fender, so that way it's a little bit more controllable. Now let's go to the car. All right, so let's get this laid down. All right. Oh, that stuff's going to make some noise, isn't it? All right, that's where that is going to live. Right down there. And this eventually will be behind the inner fender well. That's fine, just like that. This is distributor, and let go. We're just going to lay that off. That's going to run underneath and around where we're going. This is what we're worried about. Worried about these guys here. All right, let's lay those out. And now let's get the windshield wiper motor on so we can kind of, I think that's my spot too, where I'm going to go through the inner fender. Yeah, all right, let's get the wiper motor on. All right, there she is. I'm going to put my bolts up here. So these connectors are actually color-coded completely correct. So I think I'm actually going to save myself a little bit of time on this instead of depinning everything and having to put, I mean, it's brand new. So I think I'm just going to decide where I want to add them in. This yellow goes to this yellow, and then the other 4 wires connect to the harness that I already have. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strip and I'm going to butt connect these to the existing wires in my harness and then call it a day. Put a little heat shrink on it and it'll be fine. So this thing is, was difficult when you got everything painted and you don't want to scratch anything up. All right. Let's get this, there we go. That goes in there. Let's get one of these started. All right, that bottom bolt, I'm not even going to put that in. I just need to get the two at the top, just enough to get this stable. It's going to be easier to put this in without the fender on, getting in the way and me getting to that bottom bolt. All right, now the question becomes, so if that's there, this is down here. Can route these down so they meet up together right here. I can butt the two yellow together. That'll give it enough room to move. So that's so that's right here, like so. This doesn't have to come far at all. I'll have it snake down there a little bit. I think, yeah, right at this tape mark is where I'll cut my lines. I'll cut the leads there, and then I can just take these connectors off, but connect these two together, and that's one connection done. Many to go. All right, good. Well, I got the game plan. All right, I just decided to bring the whole daggone thing with me. So I'm going to do this one. These two wires need to be connected together. So got a whole little box full of different raw connectors. Let me show you. See that little notch in the center? That is the stop for the wire on both sides when you're doing the butt. So you want the wire to be just long enough to get to that point, but not have any extra hanging out the end. So when you're stripping your wire, what you want is, when this is done and you go to slip your connector in, you want to right up next to the wire. All right, if you strip the wire too long and it's hanging out like that, it'll give it a chance to do this, and eventually you may snap the wire. So you want it completely flush with your outer liner, so that way there's no movement. So what I do is I just take it and I measure it versus the outside. That is good. So now I just need to do the same strip over here on this one. I'd rather start short than get too much. I think that ought to do it right there. Just so I can get this thing perfectly flush. And that is good. All right. So now I've got my two wires stripped, ready to go. Let's talk about the crimper. So I used this before. This has the jaws in it that are for the Delphi connectors. That's the letter C. That's what they letter combo these. So I'm going to go to the set of jaws that you use for crushing butt connectors. And that is letter B. So these just snap right in. And it's easy. You got multiple sizes, and you just check until you find the one that this cradles down in. Right, that's too big. That's just right. So the great thing is I can put this in, lock it in place. So now it's locked, captured right where I want it. So then I can take, oh, all right. Have you ever been working on, you ever been working on a brake line and get that perfect flare, and then right after you're done, you look down at your feet and you see the nut that should have been on there? Yeah, so what you don't want to do is get your heat shrink before you get this thing together. So I just want enough to give me a little room on both sides. I can center this. I don't need that much. Save that little piece. It might come in handy for something. All right, so now we'll slide that down. I'll take this and put it back in here. All right, so now I have my piece captured. Make sure these wires are together. Push it till it's all the way seated. And then just send it home. That gives you a nice square crimp right in the center. Mashes the wires down. Excellent work. I like these things. Makes it dummy proof. And you could probably find at least one or two people in the world that would definitely say that I need something like that. All right. So here's our second side over here. All right, that goes in nice and flush. All right. There is our very nicely done crimp. So then we take our, put that right about there. Let's get these guys out of the way for the heat. Get the old heat gun. And just warm her up. And that is pretty much how it's done. This stuff is great. So this is 4-to-1 heat shrink, which means it'll shrink 4 times the size that you start with. And it's got glue inside, so it glues both ends shut. Nice, permanent, waterproof seal. All right, well, I just got a bunch more of that to do. 4 more, and then, yeah, then we'll move on to that inner fender. I'm having a problem finding the right size grommet. I just want a 1-inch ID grommet to fit inside there, just so I can run the harness through so I don't have any chafing against metal edges. And it's proving to be pretty interesting to find a grommet with an inner diameter 1 inch. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to find something, I'm sure. Anyway, that's it for this one. All this stuff is pretty simple once you break it down into little pieces. Like if you tried to tackle that whole thing, you'd be like, it's this huge harness. But it's just 1 pin at a time, 1 crimp at a time. Some heat shrink, some soldering. It's not rocket science. If I'm doing it, you know it's the facts. Anyway, so that's all I have. I'm going to call it a wrap on this one just because I can't move forward because I can't get the grommet that I want. So until next time, this is Hutch from Hutch High Perf. Appreciate you being here. Take care of yourself.